and my pronouns are they, them, Korean, Jimin, because I know a lot of people don't understand me, but I do identify as Korean, and I do look Korean now. I do feel Korean. I don't identify as British, so I do identify as Korean, and I do look Korean now. I do feel Korean. I don't identify as British.
Welcome back. So, Oli London. Oli London has been involved in controversy recently for coming out as Korean on Twitter. They mentioned how they spent thousands of dollars on several surgeries to look Korean. Now, this has sparked huge controversy, with many people calling Oli London's transition offensive to Koreans. But why? Why would Oli London spend thousands of dollars and several surgeries in an effort to be Korean? Well, to answer that, we first have to go down the rabbit hole of Oli London's controversies, because this is not the first time they've been in the public spotlight. Oli London first appeared back in 2018 on the channel Truly. In this video, they talked about Oli London and their desire to look a lot like Jimin from BTS.
I want my entire lifestyle to revolve around K-pop, and I want my entire look to look like Jimin, the lead singer of BTS, because for me he's perfection.
I just kind of want to look like him. Now these ones were expensive, 1,600, 650,
700, 790. This one is my most expensive clothing item. It was 7,000.
Oli London talks about the amount of Jimin merchandise they spent, which, I have to ask myself, where does Oli London get his money from? There's no evidence that Oli has rich parents or runs a business, because for all I know, they're only famous for the plastic surgeries.
You're upset?
A little bit, because I really...
You're upset as well?
Yeah.
I really just don't want you to get to a point where you can't undo anything. I mean...
We do support you, but
of course
we're just concerned, and we do want the best for you. And
thank you, Kofi. Thank you.
Surgeries.
Yeah. I'm not going to get addicted.
Well, this was back in 2018. It's now 2021, and given the whole transracial thing, I think Oli London has become addicted to the plastic surgeries.
You think I look a little bit, you think I look like Jimin a little bit?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Your makeup is more, I think a little over.
Oh, maybe too much makeup
too much,
for Jimin.
yeah.
Okay.
Did they just ask a random Korean guy to see if Oli London looks like Jimin? Let me pull up a recent image of Oli London and an image of Jimin. Can you spot the difference? Oli London is really trying to make themselves look like Jimin. Oli is trying to make themselves look like someone whom they're not, and their access to plastic surgery and the funds for it certainly do not help. This whole video got a lot of reactions from YouTubers, most notably PewDiePie.
And then he goes on Dr. Phil and he says, Dr. Phil is like, you feel like you need to be someone else. And he confirms to say, I never feel good enough. He isn't happy with himself. And that's the problem with this. You're never going to be happy trying to pursue someone that you're not. I think it's totally fine if you want to learn or take from other people some bits that you like, but just blatantly...
Love him or hate him, PewDiePie is doing a really base take here. Oli London's desire to be Jimin gives us clues for his reasons for coming out as Korean. Now, Oli London ended up appearing on Dr. Phil, and the interview between them gives us a lot more clues to Oli London's rationale behind the plastic surgeries and Jimin obsession. Oli London's interview with Dr. Phil really does dive deep into Oli's intentions, so let's go and check them out.
Okay, what is it that is so bad about you that you feel like you need to be somebody else? And you have to know that the somebody else that you're wanting to be is not really who that person appears to be. That's a manufactured, marketed image.
I mean, I've been unhappy since I was a teenager. I used to get teased at school, I used to get bullied, and I moved to Korea in 2013, and I fell in love with K-pop, fell in love with BTS.
Dr. Phil talks about how these K-pop stars aren't who they appear to be, and there are a lot of articles talking about this. Many of these faces are manufactured by these K-pop companies, and people are infatuated by these manufactured personas. This becomes a problem with fans who are engaged in these parasocial relationships, and Oli London getting surgery to look like Jimin is not okay.
but it was Jimin in particular that became my absolute obsession. So I don't know, I've just never been happy with the way I looked. I was always insecure, so I thought, let me change myself. And now, you know, it's given me so much happiness, but I've put myself through a lot of risks, and I do admit that.
But you're wanting to be a clone or a replica of someone else, which is an insult to you.
Oli London mentions that them being bullied and being unhappy drove them into doing this plastic surgery. Oli London lacks self-esteem, and them getting plastic surgery must be some sort of coping mechanism. I think Oli coming out as Korean is an attempt for them to be happy, but it's not healthy. Oli London is Oli London, not Jimin.
You know what really bothers me about this? Is I think underneath all of this, and because I don't respond to all of the image sort of stuff, I think beneath all of this, two things jump out at me. One is, I think beneath it all, you're a pretty nice guy.
Thank you.
A pretty decent guy. And secondly, I think you're really selling yourself short.
If you watched a lot of Dr. Phil interviews and then watch Oli London's interview, it shows that Oli is way more respectful than many of Dr. Phil's guests, and I think that's something that many can appreciate.
But I want you to really think about not abandoning yourself and who you are, because in the final analysis, it's you and you, buddy.
I think Dr. Phil sums up Oli London perfectly. Someone who needs to appreciate themselves, and plastic surgery and trying to be like Jimin is not the way. Now, besides the Dr. Phil interview, Oli London has also delved into music. Oli London has released about 11 songs at the time of this video being made. They tend to not do so well, with high dislike ratios. I'm not gonna play any of the music for copyright reasons, but in my opinion, they tend to be mediocre, with Oli being dependent on autotune. Now, one of Oli London's songs, Heart of Korea, stuck out to me because of the clothing and props. People in the comments section have pointed out how the clothes are Japanese and the umbrella is Chinese, which doesn't really help someone who's trying to be Korean. Now, Oli's first song, Perfection, also gives details about what goes inside of him. The lyrics have perfection repeated several times, and it shows Oli London's obsession into being perfect, with his view of perfection being Jimin, which is not okay. Overall, it seems to me that Oli London's transition is a result of a lack of self-esteem and childhood bullying. I've had friends who've told me that Oli London is just doing this all for clout, and that might be true, but even if Oli's doing this for clout, it just shows how much they want to be admired, especially when they experience childhood bullying. Plastic surgery and trying to be like Jimin might be coping strategies for Oli, but it's just unhealthy. It also does not help that a lot of Oli London's supporters are from right-wing organizations and individuals who are probably only ironically supporting him and are really using this as an example to criticize their political opposition. I think Oli London needs therapy, not surgery, because at this point, Oli is just falling into a deeper and deeper rabbit hole. That is all I have to say. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Goodbye.